This is Citizen Watch, the Tuesday, February 25th edition of your favorite guilty pleasure on Tuesday night. Just a little programming note. If folks can't get enough of us on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock, we're going to have an encore or another show on Wednesday of this week. So you're going to be able to hear us 3 days in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're going to have a special guest in tomorrow on Wednesday. Mayor Stan Thurston has agreed to come in. And I just want to take this moment to apologize to folks for last Tuesday's show. I know we hurt a lot of people out there. My brain is still hurting from that interview with Dr. Gomes.
Yeah, but you know what? In his defense,
I don't know who wanted to bring him in, Robert. But,
well, here's his defense. You know, I like Steve Gomes, and he brings some important information. The problem is, and I'm going to be very honest, and Casey and I talked about this. Steve, we didn't talk to you about it since you had something to do with my fake apology. What happened is I think with Steve Gomes, he brings information to the table that's very valuable, but it's really not within the context of our, shoot from the shotgun and play games and have a fun time.
Well, he has another platform for that with Community Conversations, Merced County Boss of Education. On Sunday.
Case,
but here's Save Mart. But if you want the real deal, you're tuned into Citizen Watch right now. We have Steed Colvard on the control.
So
best
cool.
Engineer in the whole industry there, and then of course Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer, Tomasetti. He's in studio there. I'm Casey Steed.
Case.
Yes.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Okay, 16 across says artery complement. What does it mean? What is it? I'm doing the crossword puzzle.
Artery veins.
Artery complement.
How many letters?
Would it be vein? Vein. There you go. 4 letters.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not
We're going to fill out the New York crossword puzzle on this show, evidently.
Right.
But
no, it's not New York.
There's a ton of things going on in the news. One of the things that came out this morning is the transgender bill.
Okay, wait, Case.
What?
Okay, because I'm going to let you go on your little thing and talk about it. I would like to say that yesterday, we Americans lost a Chicago icon in Harold Ramis. And it's kind of, to me, it's a little devastating, and I'll tell you why. Not that I knew him or anything, but you think of all of the TV, all of the movies that he put out, Caddyshack, all of those. That was the comedy of my generation.
Absolutely.
And, it kind of shows us we're getting older. It's always sad when I listen to the Platters or something. I think my mom and dad listen to that. And then when mom and dad pass on, that's done. Now it's our turn, and we're right behind them. And when Harold Ramis, which was a very big icon in Hollywood with the comedies, Analyze This, Caddyshack, Groundhog Day, Stripes. Exactly. Yeah. You're like Ghostbusters. Yeah. You're like, man, that was when we were in high school, getting out of high school. Right, Case?
Well, not to date ourselves too much. Harold Ramis was 69. We're a bit younger than that. But, yeah, he was in our generation. Started out at Second City Television as the head writer.
In who? In where? Where's Second City TV from?
Chi-Town.
Chicago.
Out of Chicago. Robert's neck of the woods. He lived in Los Angeles for a while, but always gravitated back to Chicago.
Same as Bill Murray.
He was a great actor and a brilliant writer.
He as good as he gets, he did.
Comedic mind.
Yes, and we lost him, and that's sad because we like to pay homage to people that, to me, it was bad because I'm thinking, God, I'm getting old. All those movies that he did that I just loved, and you watch comedies today, and they're totally different. But anyways, Case, go ahead, do your transgender thing because I know it bothers you that you don't know what toilet to use when you go to school.
Well, I do get confused. I don't know if we'll have any water to flush them, but basically the folks were trying to get 504,000 signatures to get this transgender bill issue back on the ballot. They fell 17,000 signatures short. Evidently, there might be an appeal on that, but it looks as if that effort has failed. So just to let folks know, be prepared for the restrooms coming to a school near you. It'll be interesting to see how our school districts enforce this or implement this, I guess is a better word. But
Case?
I think it's really going to have some implications in our school sports. And, Steve is a referee. A lot of people don't realize that. He referees football in the football season. And I think it's going to be interesting for you, Steve, to see some of these high schools go with the transgender teams.
Well, I think football is going to be kind of a different bird in the sense that I think what the concern should be more about is males going to female sports. Football, I mean, even at the youth level today, as we sit here, there are some females playing at the youth level. But as you get higher up the rung, so to speak, in the physicality, if that's the right word, starts to kind of show, our testosterone kicks in, their estrogen kicks in. We start to get naturally stronger. Then it kind of gets weeded out. But I think what I would be more aware of is the males deciding to go play female sports.
Well, I told you about that situation with field hockey, where the lieutenant colonel's son was in Maryland, and they play field hockey. They have men's field hockey teams. He comes to California. Dad gets reassigned. He goes and plays on the girls' team, and what do the girls do? Yeah. I quit. He's too big. He's too fast. But and not to sound sexist,
I'll make this statement too. The only state in the union where this kind of thing would be
California.
A remote possibility.
California
is this state. You would never get anything close to this thrown out there. And Tom Amiano, thank you, the guy from San Francisco who's put this on the bill. Thank you for again making California what it is and what it's become. And I'm all about equal rights for everybody. And my heart goes out to people that are having gender problems defining who they are. There are certainly some legitimate cases, but this piece of legislation is poorly written. It's going to be abused, like a lot of other things that have good intentions in the state.
Yeah, but here's my point. How many kids do you really honestly think are that the transgender bill is going to cover? A handful?
It's that small percentage that seems to get the most grease. They do the most.
Well, I don't even think it's 1%.
But you even look at what's going on with not the NFL, but Jason Collins and that other kid, Sam from Missouri. Yeah. They come out of the closet, and that's all that's been in the news for the last 7 days. And I'm like, really? Isn't there some more earth-shattering stuff?
Amen. Amen.
Well, it should be on ability. I mean, when you're playing sports like that, it's obviously your ability to score, that sort of thing. It's like I said before about the Republican Party. You need not to worry about what goes on below the waist. I think we spend way too much of our time obsessing about sex and what people's sexual preferences are.
Right. Well, here's the thing, Case.
Let me say one final thing on this, just personally. I would like to think that this kind of issue could have been handled locally without a state law being implemented. If someone is struggling with that situation, you can go to the administration locally, find a restroom for them. I mean, maybe the teacher's restroom will work. Well, this is just another thing that we did not need to legislate.
No, here's a great thing.
This could have been fixed.
Here's a great thing. If you go to Starbucks pretty packed. Okay, it's pretty busy place, and they have 2 bathrooms, male and female. And the older I get, the more I have.
You go in one at a time.
You go in one at a time.
Okay, and that's not an issue. If the transgender goes one way,
but here's what I do.
If a female goes into the male bathroom and locks the door, then there's really no harm.
That's what I do. I go into I got to go. The older I'm getting, you got to go now. And it's like you run in there and it's locked. The men's room's locked. Guys in there paying rent. Right. I'll go in the ladies' room, lock the door. I'm like, it's a bathroom's a bathroom.
Yeah, it's the perverts that I dare you to run into the girls' locker room, and then they get caught by the PE teacher, and they say,
but here's the thing about the
I was having trouble with my gender today.
Here's the problem.
Yeah, I'm confused. Well, I saw this in San Diego at Jack Murphy Stadium when we had big sports events. The male's bathroom was always backed up.
Oh, yeah.
And the female's bathroom was always backed up, big line, because it's a sit down only.
Sure.
And some of the women would go into the male's bathroom, and if you don't think the problem started when that started happening, let me tell you, it was damn near a riot.
Well, here's the thing, Case, that bugs me.
Schools are going to be able to. My whole deal with this is it's kindergarten, folks. Kindergarten.
No.
I mean, we're not even talking junior high.
I look at the junior highs as more... wait a minute, Casey. Okay. I'm hearing school teachers have a problem with little boys between the ages of 11 and 13 taking pictures of their wanger and sending it to girls and all this kind of stuff.
It's called a dick pic.
I am not looking at a kindergartner. I think they still don't really know what the heck's going on.
No, they're exploring.
It's when they hit puberty, because what this bill says is that they will allow students, transgender public school students, to join athletic teams and access facilities which corresponds with their gender identity instead of their sex. And so if today I want to be a girl because there's a hot cheerleader walking, a hot student walk. I mean, come on, we had swimming, co-ed swimming. Could you imagine the girl you're checking out and going, hey, coach, what? Yeah. Well, once I got out of the water, I'm transgendered. I want to go shower with her. I mean, come on. How stupid does it sound?
It's interesting. We used to pull people out of the canyons there in San Diego, the transvestites that would prostitute themselves to the people. And when we take them to jail,
how much they cost?
Their name and, well, my name's Dorothy. And it's like, look, Dorothy, what were you born as, a boy or a girl? And that way we knew which jail to take them to. So I think this is going to be a failure all the way around, but unfortunately the voters doesn't look like they're going to get a chance to vote.
But the irony is there's people in this state that think that makes our state stronger when they do stuff like that. To me, it makes us a laughing stock. And, I'll leave it at that.
Hey,
California is becoming a joke.
You're absolutely correct, because when you go back east, hey, so you're from California, the land of fruit and nuts, and who's not a fruit and nut
Absolutely.
is a flake. You know, and you're like,
I'm all about equal rights, and I have gay friends, and
you do?
you know, absolutely. Some of my, I'll tell you, there's some of the most compassionate
Casey,
people
did you
I've
come
ever
out of the
met.
closet and I didn't know it?
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you. And it's
I
the
don't
same.
think the three of us
They're
are gender
wonderful.
confused at all.
Yeah,
But-
they're
No, but
wonderful, caring people, and
Exactly, but here's the thing with I know this is probably going to be like a roar, but it's like with people's sexuality. If you didn't tell me who you were sleeping with, I would never know. Okay, and here you are. I like to sleep with men. What are you telling me for?
Right.
I mean, why do I
And it shouldn't
care?
be your total identity. I mean, come on.
Heterosexuals
so
don't
much more than that.
Heterosexuals don't run around going, I sleep with women. I sleep
Yeah.
with. But then they say, but if you watch movies and all, I don't know.
As a native Californian, this is just getting so out of whack, man. Here.
Well,
Hey,
hey,
Casey.
let's get off that
California's-
subject.
yep.
I wanted to ask Steve. I wasn't able to listen to some of our great local programming there on KYOS that we have on Saturday morning besides 9 o'clock every evening. But what was the reasoning from Councilman Pedroso, Mayor Pro Tem Pedroso on SB 7? Did he discuss that at all this weekend? Steve?
Yeah. I think his thing is I think the premise of it is if you leave it in the hands of company owners to do the right thing, if you leave
The
it into
private sector?
if you leave it into the hands of the private sector to distribute the income that they generate working for the state or city or county or whatever the case may be, that man is kind of greedy by nature, and they're going to take more than they deserve and not give it to the people that are actually working, which is suppressing our middle class. So I think he looks at SB 7 as a instrument to be used to guarantee that the people that are working on government taxpayer money, jobs, if you will, contracts that are being financed by the taxpayer, that
Right.
that it guarantees a certain portion of that labor cost goes to the people actually doing the work and isn't all kept at in the management suites, if you will. And it's just a way to guarantee that.
I totally disagree.
So you could sum it up by saying he thinks government knows best and should dictate what.
Well, I think that's.
how people-
When it comes to government money,
I
yes.
think what you're saying is pretty close case, how he explained it to me. But the way I look at it is okay, I like Josh and John. They're my friends. They're my personal friends. I go to their homes. But here's the problem I have with Josh and John. Okay, they're diehard Democrats. They're the kind of guys that don't think that Republicans ever did anything worth a shit in this world. Those kind of people want big government. I remember when Bill Clinton ran
but
for...
can I interject here just one quick second?
Sure.
Because the way the Democratic Party paints the Republicans, in my opinion, is that they're stooges of
Corporate.
They're corporate
And
stooges.
what's the Democrats?
Exactly
Stooges
right.
of government.
Exactly. That was going to be my point.
Okay.
They are just as much a stooge to their Democratic benefactors or their corporate benefactors.
Right, but here's the thing.
As the Republican Party is. So that argument doesn't fly for me. So if a Democrat says a Republican represents corporations
Yeah,
and,
but here's the
corporate
problem.
interests, so do you.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
So does the Democratic
But here's the
Party.
problem.
It's just it's which one. Who do you want to benefit? Who do you want to cronyize?
But here's the problem. First of all, I digress. Let me get back to that. When Bill Clinton ran for presidency, I remember the Republican Party running an ad, and it said, other than Korea and Cuba, the Democratic Party thinks that big government's good. Okay, so you stop and you think about that, because what is communism? Government controls everything. Okay,
Right.
So the Democratic Party is kind of like that because they think big government's good. Now, when you are a Republican and you are George Bush, you ran the Texas Rangers and you're Bill Gates and you're all these millionaires, I can see that you're Republican. Why? Because you are a business owner. I see and I already know what your agenda is, okay? You're a Democrat and you're a Kennedy, which never worked hard a day in his life. You're a Feinstein worth $1 gazillion. You're Barbara Boxer. You're Hillary Clinton, who was a corporate executive for the largest corporation in America or in the world, which is Walmart. She was on the board of directors. Now all of a sudden they say they understand what the inner city people are going through. How could you?
It's a voting strategy.
Exactly. It's a voting strategy. It's not a, it's
And that's
not.
what I try to get here. There's no difference between Deeds and ours at that level.
No, there's
there really
not.
is not. So if
Well, I
they've
really
sold you a bill of
disagree
goods.
with Councilman Pedrosa. I think the private industry has checks and balances. You have the National Labor Relations Board. you have OSHA, you have all of these things. What happened to being the most qualified person to do the job, irregardless of political party or union?
Affirmative action.
If I can get a fence built around a high school pool for $19,000 as opposed to $50,000, isn't the purpose to build the fence? It's not social engineering to guarantee a quote-unquote living wage. Look what we've made a mockery of the minimum wage here in this country. We're actually losing jobs. The new work week, folks, is 30 hours. It's not 40 hours anymore. It's 30 hours. We're dumbing down. We're taking the buying power away from the consumer. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me about that, Casey, is exactly what you said, social engineering. Minimum wage is not supposed to be to raise 4 kids, 2 pit bulls, and buy spinners. The minimum. No, I'm being serious. Because here's the thing, and I said this in a past show. In the Dust Bowl, okay, there was no jobs in Oklahoma. They got up and they moved to where the opportunity was. Now they don't. They got a safety net, a hammock, or whatever you want to call it, by the government. Why aren't these people going to North Dakota? You're working at McDonald's here at $8 an hour. You can go over there and make 17.
Or you're not working at all here.
Well,
and you have an opportunity.
In North Dakota, I don't know if you guys read, but in South Dakota, the Baby Bell, they're the makers of cheese, those little red cheese balls you get in the store.
Plastic.
They're really great. I love them. They made $150 million investment in South Dakota. They don't have enough milk in South Dakota to produce what they want to produce. Guess what they're hoping comes?
California
dairy
milk.
Farmers from California.
Yep.
And what is Merced's number one export?
Dairy. Yep.
Or number one producing in agriculture? Dairy. And it's just hard to believe that we're just forcing these folks out of the state with these onerous regulations, carbon taxes. I mean, we heard Darrell Steinberg talk about putting a gasoline tax on every gallon of gas to help lift people out of poverty. What are you going to do? Are you going to tax people into it?
Again, it goes back
voting strategy.
It goes back to philosophical differences of what the role of government is.
Yeah, but
it's that simple.
Here's the stupidity of it all, guys. Okay, let's look at just the gas
Hurry
tax.
up, but we got to take a break.
Well, let's take a break then.
All right. You're listening to Citizen Watch here on this Tuesday evening. We'll be right back.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the second segment of this Tuesday, February 25th edition of Citizen Watch here on KYOS 1480 AM. That's the other way you can listen to our shows on YouTube. Just put KYOS space 1480 AM in the search block, and you'll come up with all of the Citizen Watch shows. Like I say, don't hurt yourself on that February 18th show unless you really need to get some sleep. But the other thing is, if you have any tips, please call our tip line, 209-406-8728. That's 209-406-8728. 24 hours a day. I tell you, I've got some really good leads that we're pursuing. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you the outcome of those leads soon on our show. And in studio, of course, we have Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. I'm Casey Steed. We were talking a little bit about SB 7, and I just was curious as to Councilmember Pedroso's reasoning. I think we beat that to death. Hopefully,
but at least he gave a reason.
Absolutely.
And general law or the other charter cities, which Merced is, and you don't realize how wonderful it is to be a charter city as opposed to a general law city. And I just think that we ought to keep our sovereignty, keep those rights. And I'm very disappointed not only in Councilman Pedroso, but also newly elected Councilman Blake and, of course, Councilman Lohr. All three of these folks voted against.
They're strong. Those are three people that are strong believers in union. They're very strong.
They said it. And they're towing the party line.
Right.
The city council position is supposed to be a non-partisan position, and it disgusts me when these people bring their personal politics into the governance of this city.
Yeah, but
Case, it disgust the residents of this city who are constantly being forced to go with no services. You know, they close city one day a week. You can't find anybody down there. You can swing a dead cat and not hit anybody down there half the time because everybody's laid off, furloughed, on vacation. They're not backfilling positions. Right. And yet these folks do not understand that, and they will toe that party line to the death of our city, and this disturbs me greatly.
Yeah, but I think there's two separate issues there. We talk constantly here about the competency of government, and I think we've made our point there several times. But the other point is I found it that those individuals, when they were running for city council, they made no bones really about the fact what their feelings are and what they would do if they were in those positions as far as what they would support, and they got voted in. So that's part of the democratic process. I mean, people with those kind of mindsets, if they win the elections, they get to go in there and take that with them. So, I think we got
voted in on single issues either in defense.
But they're all very strong supporters. They're all diehard Democrats, and they all support the union theory.
But what have I always said?
That the government is in the business to distribute wealth.
Right.
I mean, that's their philosophies, and we voted them into those positions.
No, and you're right. But here's the point. I don't give a rat's butt what Josh Pedroza thinks, John Pedroza thinks, Noah Lohr thinks. Okay, you have your personal beliefs. That's fine. Keep them to yourself, because your job is to do what's best for Merced.
But they do think that's what's best for Merced. I mean,
but wait a minute.
I think Josh believes with all his heart that
really?
I do. Because he's a man of conviction, and you might not agree with his convictions, but he got elected on those convictions.
No, and I understand that. But when I talked to him, I said, Josh, this is all contrary to shop local. Okay, if I'm a small business, I'm hosed. Why? Because I can't compete against Tykert. Tykert's going to get everything in this town. Okay, there's not going to be Rolf Construction or anything like that, or a G.R. Clark. It's going to be Tykert. Why? Because Tykert has the manpower. Tykert has the payroll resources. Tykert has the ability to pay $36 an hour, write a check, and wait till the next job comes in.
And how did he respond to that? What was his response to that?
You'll see. You'll see. You don't understand.
Well, we will see, but see, that would be kind of frustrating to me, because we've seen one thing we rail against here on Citizen Watch is we've all been members of this community for 10 plus years, and nothing. We haven't seen this community move forward, and
it's gone backwards.
So based on results, it's kind of scary when someone says you'll see.
You know what it is? We take one step forward and two steps back.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, we did lose a milk plant to Turlock, okay? According to Casey and his investigative reporting, we lost Blue Diamond. Well, guess what? It's two steps backward, but we got one step forward, because the Pepsi building is a business from where, Casey?
Well, Sun Valley Nut is going into Pepsi. They're going to hire...
Is that a done deal?
And almond processing firm. And
where are they from?
Is that a done deal? Is that a done deal, Casey?
Well, they were going to vote on it the last meeting. They had to postpone it to the March 3rd meeting for some reason.
I heard
I'm not sure exactly why, but
I heard there's still
pretty much in the bag.
I heard there's still a debate about who's going to replace all the copper wiring that was stolen out of the building. Who's going to rewire the infrastructure?
They'll figure that out.
What expense? Who's going to absorb that expense?
That probably is an issue, and again, that just goes to show you the failings of our city government, because we own that building, folks. We own that Pepsi building, and it was all the wiring was stolen.
But wait a minute.
Just like the old Save Mart building was down on Main and just across from the studio there.
But what did
you install all that wiring?
Yep. Go ahead, Case. Or I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
But what is the first job of government? To provide safety of your person and your property. And the point of the matter is, I said this a while ago when we were told that Orchard Supply was going out. Yeah. Are they going to have at least the police kind of checking it out periodically to make sure it's not raped? Where it becomes a shell and a blight. I mean, you look at G Street, there's blight buildings that have been destroyed. You look at right across from us, it's destroyed. Pepsi's been destroyed. How and why are you going to sell or buy these buildings if you're a consumer who wants to put in a business and worry about who's going to put in the copper wiring? The city should be taking care of that and not dealing with prevailing wage.
Yeah, but you said something very, very interesting there, Case, or Robert. You said,
George,
what is the role of government? Mm-hmm. Okay, there is the line. There's a certain party that has a philosophy on what government should do, and there's another party that has a contrary point of view of what government is. There's one theory that is prevailing, and it's prevailing in spades here in the state of California.
Yep.
Now,
well, it is to a point. The supermajority is in danger there. We can kind of nexus into this right now. Probably we saw that Adam Gray's old boss, Ron Calderon, is cooling his heels in the federal pen right now up there in L.A. He might have been released by now. He was indicted on 24 counts of corruption. And it's interesting that Rod Wright, who has been convicted of 8 felonies, has not been kicked out of the Senate. And the reason, I think, is because General Steinberg knows that he's going to lose his supermajority. So I think that's an interesting nexus, Steve.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the problem that I have is, like Steve says, is the what?
He might need the want ads. Are the want ads over there?
Yeah. The thing that I have a problem with is this.
Sorry about that.
This.
Go ahead. Sorry
about what? Okay.
Oscar, the morning host for Lobo, reads the local want ads.
And you
on one of
read
his
your text
programs.
messages.
And
So
we
what's the
stole the
difference?
paper and took it in here, and poor guys.
You
trying to
stole
get
the
his-
sports section. I look
That
at
was,
information.
No, Robert, your fault. Sure.
Hey, you better not let management know that Oscar's looking in the want ad. That doesn't sound.
No, he reads it to his listeners.
Now, what my point is on these elected officials. Okay, if you look at California versus Texas, just look at California versus Texas or any other state. Why is California so backwards? Okay, because they don't have the brain God gave them.
Yeah, but you call it backwards. Some people call us progressive.
What's progressive?
Lean forward.
Yeah,
folks.
exactly.
Lean forward.
It's being enlightened human beings,
Really?
sharing the planet with our fellow species.
Great.
You know, we had I watched a gentleman on. I'm a big fan of Bill Maher.
When
I
did you
think
get back
he's
to me?
hysterical on HBO. And there was a gentleman on there that basically brought up the Central Valley, which you never hear, which really caught my attention. He says, "Look, we have a situation in California right now where the state government and the federal government are choosing fish over human beings." And he got lambasted, man. Maher and Rachel Maddow was on there, and Gene Hartman, the Democrat from California. They wouldn't even let him get his point out. He kept trying to get his point out, and they kept over-talking him and just beat him down before he could even get his point out.
here's
It's the
the
first time
point.
I've ever seen Bill Maher do that.
Okay, but here's the point. Okay, you're taking fish over people. Now, how stupid is that?
Exactly. On
Okay.
his face, it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
But Bill Maher, Rachel Maddow,
Yeah,
they
but doesn't-
defended it. You know how they defended it? They said, well, those what are they called? Minnow spot? What do we...
Fingerlings?
No, what do we... Why can't we turn the pumps on for what? The smelt.
Yeah.
The Delta smell.
Yeah, the Delta smelt are food for salmon. And it's an ecological food chain that we don't want to disrupt. That
Really?
was their. And my
Really?
point was, aren't we the top of the food chain?
Yeah, but wait.
Don't we get to dictate down?
But here's
You know,
what
don't-
we had the guy here.
Isn't it
didn't
about
we?
us first?
Yeah,
But didn't we have the guy here? And what did he say about salmon? What did he say, Casey? He said we have two species that are destroying the California water system, and they're not even They don't even.
Natives.
They're
Yeah.
not native here.
Right.
Which was the Asian clam and
Exactly.
and the striper bass.
Right.
And they're eating everything.
Absolutely.
And these guys are. It's okay.
Right. And to your other point you were making about South Dakota and about them wanting to bring the dairy industry there, isn't
Yeah.
there? Couldn't you make the argument that there's a lot of Californian legislators that would like to see that happen? They could take
Well,
their
of course.
cows and their
They
pollution.
want to get rid of farming. There's talk now about
And-
the EPA
and we can
California
share-
water quality taking away farmers' rights.
But here's the
on water.
point. They can afford the food costs from overseas food because every time they go to Congress or they go to session, they give themselves a 5% pay raise. So they're making 100 bones a year. So, hey, if they got to go to, something a little more expensive, who cares? Besides, they're not eating their own food. They're probably eating yours and mine because they're at this function and that function. Didn't Adam Gray just have a program where he paid $300 or something to go to?
300.
Yeah.
I think he paid 1,500 or something, didn't he, Casey? Went to that.
Yeah.
that-
Well, I just want to say something about Governor Brown. He wants to create or did create a great conveyance system, a transportation system. And folks, I'm not talking about high-speed rail, and I'm not talking about Governor Jerry Brown. I'm talking about Governor Pat Brown.
Yeah, with the-
in the 50s when he created the California Aqueducts, our water project, the Central Valley Water Project. And that was a great conveyance system for water. Back then, we could all get together, even a Democrat, and could agree that water was important. What has happened? What has happened in the last 40 years where we can't get together as a state and realize that the water is the blood that flows through the veins of our economy?
Yeah.
Because LA gets
Central
it.
Valley.
because I think the
LA has swimming pools.
the hippie vision is prevailed. The baby
Yes.
boomer hippie vision in California
Yes.
is prevailing. You watch the California channel, and you see the legislators we have up there. I think they want to get to the point where they want to make California, in their eyes, the Garden of Eden, where we all wear tie dye and sandals and share, the streams. with the-
You're not wrong.
with the deers and the,
'Cause
and
I
the
talk-
bears,
yeah.
and we just live out here real simply and drink wine, smoke pot,
Exactly.
Surf, that kind of thing. They don't want California to be an industrial juggernaut.
But I'll tell you what.
And their vision is prevailing right now.
Yeah, but they're saber rattling when it comes to Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson's from San Diego, made $40 million, got hosed out of a ton of money with states
In Texas,
Texas,
absolutely.
said on national TV that he's thinking of moving to where? Texas or Florida, and
Florida,
they came
yeah.
down on him like, woo, because he was talking about leaving. Because guess what? Now Zuckerberg with his billions and all these other guys are like, hey, maybe we should leave too.
The baby boom generation, the hippie generation, has sucked us dry.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, sucked us dry.
My father
Very
said,
much. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. They talked about a severance tax if you do leave the state with your millions to tax you on the way out the door, which again just shows you the
Exactly.
craziness up there.
and Casey, here's the thing. My father said the thing that's wrong with your schools, okay, is they're based on the love children of the 60s mentality. They're teaching your kids morality and manners and everything. I get all upset when I listen to some of these people go, well, we give out condoms in high school. And I go, what? Why don't you just tell them no? Well, we know they're going to have sex, so we'll just give them condoms.
I think when history looks back at this generation, Tom Brokaw did that book about the greatest generation that fought World War II and saved the world from, Hitler. What are they going to say about the baby boom generation and how they
No, not the baby boomer, Generation X. Not us. We're the baby boomers, 60s, 50s. It's not us.
I think 60. Baby boomers up to like 65.
Nope, 62.
The 62?
Mm-hmm, 40.
Anyway, the people that have been calling the shots for the last 20 years or so, they've changed the country.
But you look at other...
They're takers. They're just all takers.
But you look at... I disagree with you because you look at Texas and Florida. Florida has supplanted New York as the second largest, state in the union. Okay, what did they do? They used tourism. They used their resources. Texas uses their laws. Hey, you want to come here and build a plant? Build it. You want to come here and do this? Do it. Hey, you see you see a hole in the ground? We don't need to put 6 pylons and stanchions.
Yeah, use some common sense and walk around it.
Exactly. Okay, and what you got in California
if you're having a gender identity issue, come talk to the administration. We'll put you in a bathroom where you feel comfortable.
Well, one of the interesting things that did
we're a joke. California's becoming a joke.
The lieutenant governor did come out against California high-speed rail.
Yes.
He said that the money would be better spent on other projects. Now, I understand the bond money, the stimulus money, if you will, can't be spent on other things, but at least he has the wherewithal to know that high-speed rail is a boondoggle and should be stopped in its tracks.
Amen. Time to take another break. Case, you want to take us out?
Hey, we'll be right back, folks, with our final segment on Tuesday Night Citizen Watch. Stay tuned. Folks, welcome back to the third and final segment of Citizen Watch. It's been a fast-paced show. I have 14 items here to talk about, and we've hit 2. So I would really encourage people to listen to all 3 days this week. Like I say, we're going to be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on KYOS AM 1480. We got Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, and I'm Casey Steed. We were talking a little bit about HSR. Gavin Newsom, high-speed rail. Gavin Newsom, the lieutenant governor, has come out against it. You should see the backlash that the liberals and the progressives have against him. He was their poster boy just a few months ago when he was the mayor of San Francisco. Now that he's come out against their pet project, you think he was the Antichrist. It's absolutely wonderful to see how they'll turn on each other when they don't go with the party line. And this is the problem with politics in general, and I will say it, folks, with both parties.
Robert, go ahead.
The thing that I think is funny is I'm reading the spending deadline for rail extended, and it makes your point, Case, is the fact that it's bait and switch. It's a voter strategy. It says the train with the price tag estimated at $68 billion would connect Southern California to the Bay Area. That's not what this train is going to do. First of all. Then it says, well, we had talked about how government, people like Josh think that government knows best. Here's the deal. People see this plan. They're expecting what? Investment from private people and the private sector. And the people look at it.
Materialize.
Right. And they look at it and they scratch their head and go, this is nuts. And they don't materialize it. So you get a judge that says that the rail agency failed to comply with legal restrictions. And guess what the state is doing? They're trying to overturn that decision because they think they know what's right. And here's what I would really like to know. I would like to know how many of those state lawmakers that approved HSR have their hooks, their hands, they're in the pockets of the people that are going to design it.
And benefit from it.
And benefit
exactly right.
All of the bidders on HSR had to sign what they call PLA, project labor agreements with the unions, that when they got the job, whoever it was would use union wages. I guarantee you, if they had not signed those project labor agreements, the union would be suing right now to stop HSR. So they gave them the payoff. They gave them the old quid pro quo. We'll use you to go along to get along. And this is not what the voter, to the Jim Costas, to the Adam Grays, to the HSR apologists that come in there and say, well, the Hoover Dam wouldn't have got built, the Golden Gate Bridge, the interstate highway system, they weren't propositions. They weren't put to the voters, you knuckleheads. Play the rules. The rules were...
I hear an apology coming.
Public money up front It was a 2-hour and 40-minute ride, and it cost $38 billion. Okay, that's not what the voters approved. Put it back out to the voters if you feel that way.
Oh,
that's been see what happens.
That's been suggested, and boy, nobody's up for that because I think everybody knows.
You guys
we're already down the road too far.
Right.
We've spent $1 billion, and we don't have one.
You want to pass a law
in the ground, folks?
I got a law you can pass. Are you ready?
What?
Okay, I went to Pebble Beach for Christmas, and I'm at the Monterey Beach Hotel, and I go take a leak. And I'm looking on the wall, and I'm looking down. There's no urinal handle, right? And I look down. They got this contraption in the urinal, and it says, we use waterless urinals.
Yes.
And it says we save 400,000 gallons of water with our urinals in our hotel. Mm-hmm. El Capitan High School was just built, right? How many urinals do you think they have?
Waterless
urinals. Why don't we go to the city council and say, any new building, waterless urinals? Then you and I will go buy stock in the waterless urinal company, and we'll act like the congressman and the assemblyman. We'll have a stake in what happens.
Well, they're not going to let the common folk get in on that.
Because they get open.
It's funny, talking from a physical standpoint of this thing, they found that these waterless and low flush toilets are actually bad for the piping because they don't keep the piping flushed out.
Right.
And they've actually had more problems with sewage pipes and
because they're old.
Because there's not enough water flowing through them. So it's really kind of funny how the unintended consequences were actually hurting.
So you're saying you like flushable urinals?
Low flow, just a minimal amount of water. It has to be a little bit of water, but it should be minimal.
Right, and I'm thinking, isn't that a no-brainer? I'm sitting here in Monterey where I look to my left and I see an ocean that goes all the way to China of water, and these people are worried about water. Yeah. And I'm thinking, they're worried about water and we don't do anything. When have you heard our supervisors talk about water?
Well,
that's MID.
A very good point, Robert. We need to take some leadership, and the supervisors have been absent. I think if they had an original thought in their head, it'd be a loan. But it's one of those deals where they need to come up with some legislation, some rules on this groundwater pumping, because short of we're not going to have any surface water deliveries. This little bit of rain that we're looking is going to be welcome. Don't misunderstand me, but it's not the end all. We need to be forward thinking. Yeah. Like I say, Governor Brown's father, Pat, he was forward thinking.
I heard an interesting.
I wish the son could be like Dad.
Yeah, I heard an interesting perspective, and I don't know if you guys have an opinion on this, but I don't know. I was told that the federal government told California that they're not going to turn on the spigots for us. That they're going to continue to use the same guidelines, if you will, about the water situation here in California, not really altering it at all. Somebody pondered this to me, and I don't know if it's relevant or not, but he said he looked at it as this way. He said the federal government looks at California as just a bunch of incompetent boobs that can't fix anything. And in this water issue, they've been dragging their feet, and they haven't been confronting it for so long.
Government's going to force it.
No forward thinking that the federal government's basically looked at California and said, look at boneheads, figure this one out on your own.
Right.
You've had plenty of time to try to deal with this. You've had plenty of options presented to you to try to kind of mitigate the weather issues you deal with out there. You sit on your hands and do nothing, and then you come running to us for help. You overspend. You promise things you can't deliver. Deal with this one on your own.
Well, it's kind of like me. Years ago when I got a divorce, I had credit cards, right? Credit cards got me into debt. I was behind on some things. Oh, my God. It turned into a nightmare. Do I have a credit card today? No. Why? Because I learned from my past experience. California does not. We have a cyclical cycle. We have a cyclical climate situation. Every 10 to 12, 13 years, we go through this. The end of the world is coming, and then we have a real flush year, and then we forget about what happened last year because we're stupid.
Yeah. We're not proactive. We're reactive.
We're not even reactive.
We don't learn from our mistakes. Robert's exactly right, and we need to be forward thinking. And some of the things that we always talk about is voting. And one of the things I was pleased to see is that we have a challenger to Karen Adams, our registrar of voters. Richard St. Marie over there at the Sheriff's Department has decided to throw his hat in the ring and go against Karen Adams. She's been in that office since, I believe, 2009. Now, if folks don't remember, in 2011, there were some real hanky-panky...
Salacious, as you say.
...place. And she had some favoritism, hired her boyfriend over there. There was time card fiascos. Larry decided not to prosecute it, but people were putting down they worked hours when the county was closed. Okay, and then we just had this latest little incident with Tony Thompson and his sexual bribery. And Robert brought up a good point. Maybe they ought to audit the books over there. And Karen was surprised in the paper when Richard St. Marie threw his hat in the ring saying, well, I've done a good job, and I have all these great relations with the fiduciary and the investment counselor. Karen, it's time to go. Get out. Pack your bag.
Here's the thing.
I hope you get voted out by an overwhelming margin.
She will.
Because you don't know what's going on in your own department. Every time there's an investigation, oh, I didn't know. Well, guess what? The people know, and the voters are going to speak in June.
Do you remember all the salacious, I like Casey's word, salacious. Do you remember all that stuff that they wrote in the newspaper about?
There was some very salacious things.
Yeah, it was very,
remember
about oral sex and all kinds of stuff?
Who wrote it? Let's give kudos to Mike North. The guy that went over to the Death Star here a few months ago. He's working at the county now, but before that, he had a job at the Merced Sun Star, and he was the one that broke this story about Karen Adams, broke the report. We paid $23,000 for the report. We ended up paying $26,000 to an employee over there in Ms. Adams' office for
She didn't know.
For workplace retaliation because they wouldn't give her a raise or a promotion because she spilled the beans. Mrs. Adams, Ms. Adams, it's time to go. And I'm going to pull those articles, folks, and I'm going to read the salacious statements that Mrs. Adams made to her employees. Just let everybody know.
Okay, Case.
I tell you, the first thing that I would do if I was the political god here is bring in a forensic accountant. And I would account for every dime and see where it's going, see who the really corrupt ones are, and I'd start cleaning house.
Heave-ho, you got to go.
Yep.
We need to bring in Kamala Harris, which doesn't, she's the top cop in California, the state attorney general. I don't give much hope because, again, we're too polarized in our D's and our R's and our I's and our independence. But we also need to bring in the FBI to Merced County and really have a top-to-bottom cleaning of the house over there.
Well, here's what I have a problem with.
It's happening in one department. It's happening all over.
But here's the problem.
You go out there to Planada and you see XIV on the wall. That's not the number of suspensions that Brenda Porras have. That's
Porras
that's taking over Planada. And why does the supervisor that represents that district, pry into your political patronage fund, that $40,000 we give you every year,
that party's
over. A couple of gallons of paint and show those Norteños who's boss. Yep. But no, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to hand out kites and ping pong balls in the park. It's a bunch of crap.
Hey, why don't we go do it? Why don't we go do it? You and I.
Do what?
They painted it over the other day. And
then
back the next morning.
But why don't
you know who runs that county? The Norteños.
Why don't
Steve Gomes took offense to I calling it Planet X. He goes, well, when you call it Planet X, it gives a connotation of a dysfunctional community. Open your eyes. It is dysfunctional. They're killing people out in the street.
Casey, should I give everybody in Planada your address so they can show you how dysfunctional they are?
Can I read a disclaimer right now?
Yeah.
The views and opinions you've just heard
from Maple to Computer. No, Casey, I'm serious. Why don't we go do it? Why don't we just go take a bucket and a roller and go zip, zip, zip? It's done.
You know what I feel?
We'll put our money where our mouth is.
You know what I feel safe in saying?
I would be happy to do that, Robert, but we're going to have to do it every day until they get the point.
Don't we have a graffiti buster here?
On the corner. You got to be the bigger dog. I have no problem doing it. Your spinal cord has the consistency of toothpaste, folks. It's that backbone that surrounds it. And people over there on 2222 M Street, reach around behind you if you can and feel that hard thing that runs right up the middle of your back. That's what you're missing. And that's what this community needs is a backbone and somebody to have the levels to go out there, slap a little paint on that wall every time they see the Roman numerals. These kids can't count, but they sure know the Roman numeral system.
Yeah, you know what? I just figured out our out song today.
What?
Bob Dylan, Times They Are Changing.
Times
they are changing.
You know what I really think?
Get on a rant, folks. I love this community. We talk about.
That's why you're in Oklahoma.
We talk about the good things all the time, but it's just disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. So I am so happy to see that we have a challenger to Karen Adams. We have 3 challengers to Lynn Davis, and Lynn, you better watch out.
But wait a minute.
You better watch out because I don't know if they're going to put you back in. What have you done?
Okay.
What have you done over there?
Okay, take a breath.
Banyan looks like he's going to run unopposed. We have a few more days for somebody to file, and we always say the west side is the best side.
They're trying.
I hope somebody comes out of the woodwork and runs.
I talked to a couple from the west side this weekend, and they're trying hard to find someone to run.
Here's something that nobody really knows about.
There's a lot of people that fear him over there.
But there's a lot of. Here's something about.
That's unfortunate.
Here's something about Karen Adams that nobody really pays attention to, and that is that the county censured her and gave part of her areas of responsibility to another supervisor.
They take any of her pay away?
Nope.
No, they couldn't. She's elected. This is the problem, folks. Deidre Kelsey gave us the clue. If you don't like it, there's a process every 4 years. It's called an election. Well, guess what? We have an election coming up in 4 short months, and we encourage the people to turn out.
You want to bet she gets reelected because nobody's paying attention?
Yep. Things are changing, man.
I know the folks on Citizen Watch, and we appreciate all of our listeners.
Change is slow, but change is coming. I firmly believe that. I mean, when you got someone like Gavin Newsom who's been towing the party line for so long, it's finally coming out with a little bit of common sense.
Yeah, but I think what he's doing is separating himself from the boys because I think he wants the G spot.
Absolutely, he wants the G spot. But what they're starting to do, they're starting to realize that the public sentiment is starting to shift. The high speed rail is important to the Democratic Party because they made a lot of promises based on that income that they thought was going to be coming from high speed rail. These contracts that they were going to be able to dole out, those people put them back in office. Now, what happens if they can't deliver that?
Well, I can tell you
deliver a lot of things.
Of the people that live in Merced County that were promised jobs, hey, HSR is coming. If you don't have a union card in your wallet, folks, you aren't getting a job on HSR. That's just the way it is. And if you think the union is looking for people to come in, guess again, they've got enough construction workers. The only oxygen the union gets is from public employees, public works.
And we live in a democracy. And if that theory is going to prevail, it would be much easier to swallow if the voter turnout was 50, 60, 70% rather than 24. That's my point, is you've got people that have dogs in the fight, they get out there, they're motivated to go to the polls, they vote. And you people that sit home and disagree and stay home, your voice isn't heard. So they continue to run things. And until you get off your butt, get yourself down to that voting booth, and like I said, say what you got to say when you're in the company of the people that are going one way or the other. No one walks into that voting booth with you, and put your X next to what you think is right.
But you know what's funny? You know what's funny? It's kind of like a neighborhood watch. I don't go downtown because it's unsafe. Well, if more people went downtown, it'd be safer now, wouldn't it? So people sit there and say, well, my vote doesn't count. Well, guess what? If you get off your ass, your vote will count.
You hear that song? Times they are a-changing.
What song?
Am I deaf? Is that what we're going to go out with?
Music?
I wanted to go out with a couple of different songs, but that's a good one.
All right. Well,
what's yours, Case?
Go ahead, Case.
Trump Operator for Tony Thompson.
Little Sade.
We could also
Smooth Operator
give you up for Brenda Porras, but then that's not applicable now because she was given up. But anyway, you guys want to play Bob Dylan?
Take us home, bud.
Out of time.
We are out of time.
Well, hey, folks, welcome, or not welcome, but thank you for listening to Citizen Watch. I don't mean to go on a rant, but I'm just passionate about what I believe in. The three of us, I think, feel the same way, and I hope that people tune in tomorrow, Wednesday. Don't have to wait till Thursday. We're going to have Mayor Thurston in. I promise he won't put you to sleep. He's going to be provocative.
Salacious?
Nothing to lose. It's his last term in office. He's termed out. He's going to tell it like it is, and he's going to give the folks some good information. Please, tomorrow.
You're getting me a little excited about tomorrow now.
Wow.
Well, I hope so. And, Robert, what do we say every time we leave?
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Good night, folks.